For a long time, conventional wisdom held that as we age, the brain inevitably deteriorates. If the brain sustains damage, whether from an injury, a stroke, or even cancer, it was believed that regeneration was impossible. We now know that view is incorrect. There are groundbreaking approaches, like certain immunotherapies, that every cancer patient should discuss with their medical team. These therapies have demonstrated an ability to lower hemoglobin A1C, enhance glucose regulation, and improve insulin sensitivity. Emerging studies even indicate they can stimulate the body's own production of GLP-1. This could be incredibly beneficial for managing body weight. Furthermore, specific interventions have been shown to moderate and decelerate the advancement of Parkinson's disease. Consider immunotherapy for cancer. The individuals who experience life-saving responses are those who possess a particular gut bacterium. Those who do not respond are typically missing it. This isn't merely an optional supplement for slight wellness, it is an essential component. It doesn't just offer a marginal health boost, it could represent the pivotal factor between survival and mortality. One such bacterium, Akkermansia mucinifila, has been identified as a keystone species, meaning it is foundational to our well-being and performs a multitude of critical functions. Research demonstrates that Akkermansia can effectively reduce hemoglobin A1C, improve the body's handling of glucose, and increase insulin sensitivity. That is profoundly significant. While it isn't primarily a weight loss microbe, it can help sharpen and optimize metabolic function. Newer science reveals it also assists the body in releasing its own native GLP-1. So, instead of spending a small fortune on injectable medications, one could support a bacterium that naturally encourages GLP-1 production. Why is this so important? Well, it can be a powerful tool for weight management, a more sustainable and holistic goal than mere weight loss. But the role of GLP-1 is expanding beyond body composition. GLP-1 receptors are present on every single blood vessel cell throughout the entire vascular system. Consider the scale: approximately 60,000 miles of blood vessels in the human body, with about 400 of those miles intricately woven through the brain. Every one of those vessels contains receptors for GLP-1. Reflecting on the central theme of gut-brain connection and lifelong health, this means Akkermansia not only aids whole-body glucose metabolism, but may also promote healthier blood vessels systemically, including those essential for cerebral circulation. The most astounding data I've encountered on Akkermansia, however, has little to do with metabolism and everything to do with the immune system and cancer treatment response. In 2017, I joined a group of colleagues from across Europe to convene a meeting in France titled Rethinking Cancer. The goal was to assemble leading cancer researchers with one fundamental rule: they could not discuss chemotherapy or pharmaceutical drugs. What could possibly be left to talk about at a cancer conference without mentioning the standard therapies? The answer was everything else: stress, sleep, nutrition, physical activity, social well-being, all the vital factors patients consistently ask about. The standout presentation was delivered by a researcher in Paris, Laurence Zitvogel. She presented work involving 200 patients with various cancers who were receiving immunotherapy, a treatment that doesn't poison cells like chemo, but instead activates the body's own immune defenses to fight cancer. She explained a puzzling discovery. Only about 20% of patients responded positively, meaning their awakened immune systems effectively attacked and sometimes even eradicated advanced cancers. For a cancer patient, that statistic is devastating. A potentially life-saving treatment works for only 1 in 5. Dr. Zitvogel set out to discover the difference between the responders, whose immune systems became supercharged and victorious, and the non-responders, whose immune reactions were ineffective. She examined gender, age, coexisting conditions, medications, and genetics. Nothing correlated. The sole definitive difference was found in the gut microbiome. One specific bacterium separated the two groups, Akkermansia. The patients who had a life-saving response to immunotherapy harbored Akkermansia. Those who did not respond lacked it. When I saw that data, I'm certain my audible gasp was heard by those sitting nearby. It was an absolute bombshell, revealing a profound new dimension of gut health. This isn't a nice-to-have luxury, it's a non-negotiable necessity. It's not about feeling slightly better. For a cancer patient, it could be the decisive line between life and death. This discovery fundamentally altered my perspective as a physician advising cancer patients. These are just a few examples of the deep, transformative discoveries being made, linking gut health to brain health and immune health. This is a domain you cannot ignore if you care about health span, if you want to survive cancer, avoid heart disease, dodge dementia, and sidestep other chronic conditions. How do you achieve that? I believe it starts in the gut. Our circulatory system is vital. Those 60,000 miles of highways and byways deliver oxygen, nutrients, blood cells, and medicines to every single cell. This network may also act as a public transit system, shuttling healthy bacteria to where they need to go. Immunotherapy is a conversation every cancer patient should initiate with their oncologist. The reason is historic. For the first time in modern medicine, we have a treatment capable of completely reversing a progressive cancer. When reversal becomes possible, the impossible becomes attainable. I have witnessed this reversal repeatedly in patients on immunotherapy. Of course, if you undergo this treatment, you want it to work. We are now beginning to understand that the contents of your gut, like Akkermansia, can determine that outcome. Therefore, when considering immunotherapy, one must also carefully consider gut health, as beneficial organisms like Akkermansia can play a critical role. Akkermansia is not typically found in significant amounts in foods, which is why targeted probiotic supplementation can be beneficial. However, the foods you consume can encourage its growth. Let's return to the Amazon rainforest analogy. We've discovered this new species. We've only known about Akkermansia for about 30 years, and we must observe its behavior. What does it eat? Where does it live? What makes it thrive? We know Akkermansia resides in the colon, specifically in an area called the cecum, the pouch-like beginning of the large intestine. This area, incidentally, is where the appendix is located. We used to dismiss the appendix as a useless evolutionary remnant. Now we are rethinking that. The cecum, teeming with essential gut bacteria, and the appendix itself, may serve as a storage reservoir and replenishment center for our healthy microbiome, and perhaps even as an immune reservoir. It's a fascinating concept. So, what does Akkermansia consume? It eats mucus, the mucin that naturally lines our gut. While that might sound unpleasant, mucus is a normal, healthy part of our digestive tract, from mouth to colon. Akkermansia mucinifera loves mucin. It consumes it. Therefore, the more mucus you have, the more food is available for Akkermansia to flourish. How do you increase gut mucin production? Dietary fiber is helpful, and Akkermansia will consume some fibers. However, specific polyphenols called elagitannins, found in certain foods, can stimulate your gut to secrete more mucin, creating a natural food source for Akkermansia. You can't eat Akkermansia directly from food, but you can fertilize and nurture its growth by consuming the right foods. Foods known to promote Akkermansia growth include pomegranate and its juice, and cranberries. Opt for dried cranberries over sugary juice. Concord grape juice is another. The quintessential grape flavor in candies was actually modeled after the real Concord grape. Other potent sources are Chinese black vinegar, often served with soup dumplings, dried chili pepper flakes, and peach juice. This is a rapidly evolving area of research where we continue to discover more foods that support this keystone bacterium. Most work by enhancing gut mucin secretion, providing the sustenance Akkermansia needs to multiply. It's crucial to recognize that these polyphenols and dietary fibers, abundant in plant-based foods, help sustain our entire physiological system. Now, let's contrast this with a more reductionist approach like ketosis, which focuses intensely on ketone production. There's no denying its clinical power. Ketosis is a proven, powerful therapy for intercepting epilepsy in children and has shown surprising utility in slowing the growth of certain brain cancers. The critical question, which must be asked of any extreme dietary protocol, is about long-term sustainability. It might be highly useful in the short term, akin to an actor's intense preparation for a role or an athlete's rigorous training for a marathon. These are not necessarily healthy, lifelong habits. When we talk about health span and living well, we seek a sweet spot where enjoyable activities also benefit the body and brain, allowing for a satisfying journey through life. Overwhelming evidence reveals that to live a long and vibrant life, social connection is paramount. Surprisingly, this trumps food, supplements, injections, infusions, and even exercise. It's not exclusively about family, but about being surrounded by and genuinely engaging with other people. This speaks to a core dimension of our humanity, moving us beyond the old debate about lifespan length. Another vital point is our perception of aging. We often associate aging with decades like the 50s, 60s, and 70s. But in truth, we begin aging from the moment of birth. There are exciting milestones, and significant decline isn't inevitable early on. Muscle mass doesn't typically start diminishing until around age 40. Metabolism, if you're otherwise healthy, remains stable until about 60. The brain doesn't undergo major changes until the 40s or 50s. We must separate societal narratives about aging from what our biology actually tells us. This is where mind and body converge. Aging is the most natural process experienced from our first breath to our last. This realization elevates the importance of social connection far beyond what we previously thought. If you want to bulletproof yourself against many age-related declines, the time to cultivate and refine your social circles, friendships, and family bonds is probably around age 40. Regarding metabolic changes, we now understand our body's energy systems. How we use and store glucose and burn fat operate in distinct phases. At birth, metabolic rate is at a baseline. In the first year, it skyrockets to about 50% higher than the adult rate in your 20s. It then gradually declines to a stable, cruising altitude that is maintained from age 20 to 60. Only after 60 does it slowly decline by about 17% by age 90. So, if metabolism is designed to be stable for 4 decades, why do we experience changes in our 40s and 50s? The biology itself isn't fundamentally shifting. Rather, external forces, lifestyle, stress, environmental factors, place pressure on our biology, making it harder to maintain that natural metabolic equilibrium. This is a key insight for healthy aging. While you can't drastically alter hormonal shifts like menopause, you can counteract their effects through stress mitigation, exercise, diet, and managing chronic conditions. A super interesting area I've been exploring is the impact of the vagus nerve. Let me offer a personal perspective from my medical training. As a student in the anatomy lab, I traced this massive nerve from the skull down through the neck and into the chest. What we now know is remarkable. 80–99% of the signals in the vagus nerve travel upward from the body to the brain. It is essentially a dedicated telecommunications line, especially from the gut reporting to the brain. Let's apply this to aging. One of the most prized aspects of a vibrant life and a non-negotiable for health span is brain health, maintaining sharp cognition. Forgetting keys is normal. Failing to recognize loved ones is a profound fear. New science shows that events in our gut are communicated directly upstairs to the brain. Therefore, the gut microbiome isn't just for mid-life digestive concerns. It is something we must nurture through every decade for optimal brain health. We depend on doctors to be current, but medical education is built on truths that evolve. Just when we thought we knew the body, we're discovering new neurons, new heart tissues, new stem cells. It's mind-boggling. In medical school, I memorized bacteria with the accompanying mantra: bacteria are bad, kill them with antibiotics. The reality is that most bacteria we encounter are beneficial. We are inhabited by and surrounded by good guys, with only the occasional bad actor that needs addressing. We were also taught certain body sites were sterile. Mother's milk? Completely sterile to protect the baby. That was wrong. A mother's first milk delivers not only vital nutrients but also bacteria that colonize the infant's gut. Urine? Sterile, with bacteria indicating infection. We now know the bladder has its own healthy microbiome. An infection represents a dysbiosis, an imbalance of that natural state. Other sterile sites include human semen and, most astonishingly, the brain. The brain is the last place you'd want an infection. Meningitis or a brain abscess can be life-threatening. Yet, because we've started looking for beneficial bacteria, we've discovered the brain has its own healthy microbiome. This is jaw-dropping. How do bacteria get there? What are they doing? We know bacteria and nerves communicate via the vagus nerve. Is it possible gut bacteria hitch an Uber, ride up the vagus nerve, and get dropped off in the brain? Perhaps. This is a remarkable frontier that excites medical researchers because it offers new hope for improving health span and overcoming disease. It also instills humility. Despite our knowledge, we have much to learn about healing. We must respect nature and listen to our bodies. Doctors can't test for everything. This is why biohacking, monitoring your own metrics, is valuable. Even doctors biohack. But we can't measure what we don't yet appreciate. The first step is to reconnect with and listen to your body's signals, which often communicate what lab tests cannot. The discovery of a brain microbiome unlocks new possibilities for fostering brain health through healthier bacteria. We are at the dawn of a new era in understanding cognitive wellness. We used to think the brain inevitably declined with age. Not necessarily. We believed a damaged brain could not regenerate. Wrong, it can. We assumed lost functions like smell or vision were gone forever. Not necessarily true. Long-held tenets of neurology are being reconsidered in light of our microbial companions. We know specific bacteria can influence the brain. Let's discuss two. First, Lactobacillus plantarum. Lactobacillus is a vast genus critical for health with hundreds of species. Lactobacillus plantarum, in particular, has shown in early clinical studies that when delivered as a specific probiotic strain, like Pi 128, it can smooth out and slow the progression of Parkinson's disease. This is measured in people with early Parkinson's whose symptoms were difficult to control. The idea that a single bacterium could measurably alter the course of a neurodegenerative disease is profound. A close friend of mine passed away from ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, a brutal neurodegenerative condition. In his final years, our search for anything that could help led me to Lactobacillus plantarum. While he ultimately succumbed, the research continues, demonstrating the potential power of bacteria on the brain. Second, we see links between Alzheimer's, dementia, and harmful oral bacteria. Gum disease, gingivitis, represents a dysbiosis, and irritable mouth syndrome. These unhealthy bacteria may send disruptive signals that can upset the brain's microbiome. This suggests that simple oral hygiene and gut care could reshape our brain health trajectory. Another impactful bacterium is Lactobacillus reuteri. This amazing microbe used to be common in the human gut, but has become less prevalent, partly due to antibiotic use. Its story is incredible. In pregnant women, this bacterium can travel via the bloodstream around the 8th month and relocate to the nipple tissue. When the baby nurses a month later, it receives Lactobacillus reuteri, which colonizes its gut. It's astonishing that a maternal gut bacterium can migrate to the breast and be delivered to the infant. Lactobacillus reuteri also impacts the brain by stimulating the release of oxytocin, the social bonding hormone. Oxytocin floods us during a heartfelt reunion hug, a deep kiss, or intimate moments. This bacterium helps our brain release oxytocin, reminding us that the brain isn't just for computation. It underpins the social connections that are so vital for healthy aging. If you found this exploration valuable, there's more for you to discover. Please check out the next video.